Are you spending hours studying only to forget everything a week later? The problem might not be you. It might be how you're studying.
Ever found yourself pouring hours into learning something, reading, maybe rereading, highlighting everything under the sun, only for the information to kind of evaporate
Yeah.
the moment you try to recall it?
Yeah, like it's just gone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're definitely not alone, and it's not really a reflection of your intelligence. More often than not, it's about how we're learning, not if we can.
Mm-hmm. The strategy matters.
So in this deep dive, we're going to cut through some of that noise and unpack the powerful science and strategies behind truly effective learning.
Yeah, getting beyond just, hoping it sticks.
Our mission here is to equip you with scientifically backed techniques that can actually transform how you gain knowledge. Whether you're prepping for, say, a critical meeting, diving into a completely new field, or maybe just pursuing a personal passion. We want to help you master anything faster.
Sounds ambitious, but definitely achievable with the right approach.
We've pulled together insights from, well, some leading experts, people like Scott Young, author of Ultra Learning, Cal Newport's Strategies for Deep Work, and the foundational cognitive science from the book Make It Stick.
And we're also touching on the critical role of mindset, right? Like the growth mindset idea and that state of flow.
Absolutely. Those are key. So get ready to maybe rethink everything you thought you knew about becoming well-informed.
Let's dive in.
Okay, let's unpack this first piece. A lot of us fall into what Cal Newport brilliantly calls pseudo work when we try to learn or study.
Right.
We highlight, we reread our notes, we might passively listen to a lecture or a video. It feels like learning, doesn't it? We're, engaged, our eyes are on the page.
It really does feel productive, but often it's just motion, like you said, not real progress.
Yeah.
What's fascinating here is that this feeling of familiarity, it can be a powerful illusion.
An illusion.
Yeah, what the folks behind Make It Stick call a fluency illusion. You recognize the content, you think, yes, I've seen this before, I know this. But that recognition, it doesn't mean you can actually retrieve it from memory when you need it. Or explain it, or apply it in a new situation. It's like recognizing a song on the radio versus being able to sing it from memory whenever you want.
That's a great analogy.
Your brain hasn't done the sort of heavy lifting required to truly encode it deeply.
And Cal Newport, back in his book, How to Become a Straight A Student,
Yeah.
he gives us this really powerful yet simple equation. Work produced equals time spent times intensity.
Intensity, that's the key part.
Right. If your intensity is low, if you're stuck in that passive pseudo work mode, you have to spend an enormous amount of time to get any really effective work done. It's just incredibly inefficient.
You're working harder, not smarter.
Exactly.
And if we zoom out a bit, the brain's learning process, fundamentally, it involves encoding information effectively, storing it so it lasts, and then, crucially, retrieving it reliably when needed.
Encoding, storing, retrieving. Got it.
Passive activities, well, they often short-circuit this. They might touch on superficial encoding, but they don't force the brain to build those robust connections.
So the memory just fades.
Yeah, it leaves your memory vulnerable to pretty rapid decay. True, lasting learning requires effort. It actually causes physical changes in the brain. It literally builds new pathways. It takes work.
So it's pretty clear that if these passive methods fall short, we need a fundamental shift in how we approach learning.
Definitely.
And for many, that shift starts with understanding what Scott Young calls ultra learning. Now, that might sound a bit intense, right? Conjures images of like monastic study or something.
Yeah, locking yourself away for months.
But it's really about highly intentional, rapid skill acquisition. But I wonder, is it truly applicable to everyone? Or are there maybe scaled down versions for everyday learning challenges?
That's a great question. Because while Scott Young's projects are, pretty extreme, the principles behind them are universal. He identifies 3 core tenets of an ultra learner. First, self-education. Ultra learners basically take the driver's seat. They actively design their learning process rather than just passively consuming whatever's put in front of them.
Okay, so taking ownership.
Exactly. Second, deep focus. It demands hard, intense, undistracted focus. That's what really accelerates skill development.
Makes sense.
And third, it's scientifically informed. Ultra learners don't just guess what works. They leverage the best available understanding of cognitive science.
Yeah.
How memory and skill acquisition actually function to make learning a systematic, step-by-step process.
Wow.
So yes, absolutely. You can apply these principles to any learning goal, big or small. You don't have to learn MIT's curriculum in a year.
Right. Right. Though Young did put these principles to the test with some incredible projects. I mean, think about this. He learned MIT's entire 4-year computer science degree in just 12 months, passed the final exams, did the programming project.
It's pretty mind-blowing.
He learned calculus in 5 days, and he mastered 4 languages in a single year by forcing himself not to speak English during immersion trips.
Wow.
These aren't just impressive stunts. They're like undeniable proof that this methodology, when you apply it with real intensity, it actually works.
And those projects, they brilliantly illustrate a core idea from our sources on developing a growth mindset. The brain is incredibly malleable. It's like a muscle.
Right, you hear that a lot.
Every time you push yourself, grapple with a new concept, or learn something difficult, your brain physically forms new connections. You literally become smarter.
So it's not fixed.
Not at all. This growth mindset, which Carol Dweck's research really highlighted, is fundamental. It's believing you can master any topic. It shifts your focus from just, getting the grade or achieving the outcome to actually embracing the process of learning and improving, even when it feels tough.
Okay, so if passive pseudo work is out, what's the real game changer then? What's in? It doesn't tell any other. Our sources seem to point definitively towards active learning and, crucially, retrieval.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Retrieval.
This is where it gets really interesting for practical application, I think.
Totally. The number one tip, championed by Cal Newport and the authors of Make It Stick, is basically quiz and recall, or active retrieval. Don't just reread your notes passively.
Okay.
Instead, close the book, maybe grab a blank piece of paper, and try to explain the concept from scratch. Or solve a related problem, or just articulate the basic theory without looking at your notes.
So forcing yourself to pull it out of your own head.
Exactly. And that struggle, that feeling of effort, sometimes called desirable difficulty, it isn't a sign you're failing. It's actually your brain actively forging stronger, more resilient neural pathways.
Like lifting weights for the brain.
Precisely. It's like a muscle that only truly grows when it's challenged, not when it's just passively stretched, that aha moment after you struggle for a bit. That's proof your brain has done the heavy lifting needed for lasting memory.
And Scott Young's MIT challenge, he heavily leveraged the Feynman technique, right? Which sounds similar.
It is. Essentially, it's active retrieval framed as teaching. If you can break down a difficult concept and explain it simply enough for someone else to understand.
Like a kid, maybe.
Yeah, Make It Stick suggests explaining it like they're 5 years old. If you can simplify it to that level, you've likely moved past mere familiarity to true, deep understanding.
That makes a lot of sense.
And beyond just recalling facts, deep processing involves engaging with information meaningfully. One key strategy here is elaboration.
Yeah, elaboration.
Yeah, connecting new information to your existing knowledge or your personal experiences. Think about creating vivid analogies, like you mentioned photosynthesis earlier, maybe comparing it to a tiny biological kitchen inside a leaf.
Okay, making links.
Or conjuring mental images to visualize abstract concepts. This makes the information stickier because it gets woven into the fabric of what you already know. It's not just floating out there alone.
That makes sense. Like, for instance, in Young's portrait drawing challenge, he used something called skill decomposition, breaking down drawing faces into these fundamental components, like the precise positioning of facial features, and then practicing those specific elements rapidly with quick sketches.
Right, focusing on the building blocks.
Yeah, it's about understanding the underlying structure of a skill, not just trying to copy a finished product without knowing why it works.
Exactly. And other powerful deep processing techniques include things like summarizing and paraphrasing in your own words. That's critical. Creating visual aids like diagrams or mind maps to literally draw connections between ideas.
I like mind maps.
Yeah, or concept mapping to visualize the relationships between different ideas. These are all about forcing your brain to actively make sense of the material, to manipulate it, not just passively absorb it.
Okay, so we're actively receiving, we're processing deeply, but you also mentioned timing earlier. It's not just what you do, but when and how you spread it out.
Absolutely crucial. Timing is everything in building lasting knowledge. Spacing out your practice is like a gold standard in learning science.
Spacing it out.
The research is crystal clear. Frequent practice, distributed over time, sometimes called distributed learning, results in much stronger, longer-lasting memories than trying to cram it all in at once.
Right, cramming feels terrible anyway.
It does, and it's ineffective long-term. Make It Stick offers a fantastic analogy for this. Think about watering your lawn.
Okay.
You wouldn't water it for, say, an hour and a half, just once a week, right? Most of it would just run off, and the grass would still be thirsty later.
True.
It's much better to turn the sprinklers on for maybe 30 minutes 3 times a week. Your mind works the same way. Frequent, shorter exposures allow the brain time to consolidate those new memories without getting overloaded.
That's a really helpful way to think about it.
Mhm.
And there was another related strategy, interleaving. That one sounds a bit counterintuitive.
It does, doesn't it? Because we usually like to block our practice study one topic until we feel we've got it, then move to the next.
Yeah, exactly.
But interleaving means deliberately alternating between different topics or types of problems within a single study session.
Mixing it up.
Yeah. Make It Stick describes a great study with Cal Poly baseball players. Some practiced hitting only curveballs in one session, only fastballs in another, and so on blocked practice.
The usual way.
Right. The other group practiced hitting curveballs, fastballs, and changeups all mixed together randomly within each session, interleaved practice. And guess what?
The interleave group did better.
Significantly better in actual game-like situations. That desirable difficulty of not knowing what's coming next forces your brain to constantly discriminate between concepts to figure out which strategy applies now.
Ah, so it builds adaptability.
Exactly. It improves your ability to apply the right solution in real-world scenarios, which are rarely as neatly compartmentalized as our textbooks or practice sessions often are.
Okay, so we're putting in the effort, we're spacing it out, we're mixing it up with interleaving. But how do we know if we're actually on the right track? And how do we course correct quickly if we're making mistakes? That's where feedback comes in, I assume.
Precisely. Feedback is critical. Scott Young emphasizes quicker, deeper, more accurate feedback cycles.
Quicker, deeper, more accurate.
Yeah. This means applying your knowledge somehow, solving a problem, writing something, trying the skill, and then getting immediate specific information on where you went wrong or where you could improve.
So not just waiting for the grade on the final exam weeks later.
Definitely not. In his MIT challenge, this was simple, checking the solutions right after attempting each problem set. In the portrait drawing challenge, it was more creative. He'd overlay photos of his sketches directly onto the reference images to pinpoint exact discrepancies in proportion or line work.
Well, that's precise.
Right. Faster and more precise feedback leads to dramatically faster learning because you can correct errors before they become ingrained habits. You solidify the correct pathways much quicker.
All these strategies are fantastic, powerful stuff. But, they all kind of hinge on one thing, being able to actually sit down and do them with intensity.
Yep, the foundation.
We're talking about focus and productivity as the bedrock here, aren't we?
Absolutely non-negotiable. The train focus and productivity principle means you have to be ruthless about eliminating distractions.
Easier said than done sometimes.
Oh, definitely. But it means actively creating periods with no internet, no cell phone notifications, no background TV during your focused work times.
Building a fortress of solitude.
Kind of. You need to create a productivity system that works for you. Maybe scheduling dedicated blocks of time for that deep, focused work. And then, importantly, progressively train your focus. Start with shorter, intense bursts, maybe just 25 minutes, and gradually build your concentration endurance, just like training a muscle.
Cal Newport advises studying in isolation as much as possible, and for no longer than an hour in one stretch to keep that intensity high. Then take a quick break, maybe 5–10 minutes before diving back in.
Yeah, those breaks are key for consolidating and preventing burnout within a session.
And to conquer that ever-present enemy, procrastination, he suggests something really simple but effective. Make sure you're well-fueled and well-rested.
Basic but critical.
Being tired or hungry just depletes your willpower, making it far harder to overcome that initial inertia and tackle difficult, important work.
It really does. Your brain needs energy to focus and resist distractions.
So with all these how-to strategies, from active recall to interleaving to fierce focus, we've basically built an incredible toolkit for learning.
A really solid set of tools.
But let's be honest, even with the best tools in the world, if the engine's not running, you're not going anywhere.
Right? True. Motivation matters.
Which brings us to that crucial why too. How do we cultivate the genuine desire to learn, especially when the material is challenging or maybe just a bit dense?
This is where we get into the really interesting interplay between intrinsic motivation and that state of flow.
Okay, tell me more. Intrinsic motivation.
Yeah.
that's doing it for its own sake.
Exactly. It's that powerful internal drive to do something because you find it inherently satisfying or enjoyable or meaningful, rather than doing it just for an external reward like a grade, money, or praise.
And flow, that's that amazing state people talk about, where you're completely absorbed in an activity, you feel energized, super focused, you lose all track of time, maybe even self-consciousness.
That's the one. That zone where everything just clicks and the work feels almost effortless, even though you might be performing at your absolute peak.
Yeah, that sounds good. How do we get more of that?
Well, the connection is really synergistic. When you're intrinsically motivated, when you genuinely want to engage with the material, you're far more likely to invest the deep focus needed to experience flow.
Okay.
And crucially, those flow experiences themselves, they powerfully reinforce that intrinsic motivation. They make the activity feel even more enjoyable and rewarding in the future.
Ah, so it's a loop.
It's a powerful, self-sustaining loop. One fuels and strengthens the other. Engaged learning leads to flow, which makes you want to learn more.
So if we want to tap into this, how do we actually cultivate that intrinsic motivation? And how do we set up the conditions for flow in our learning? What are the practical levers we can pull?
Great question. We can cultivate intrinsic motivation by fostering a few key elements. First, autonomy. Giving yourself genuine choices in how you learn or what aspects you focus on first. Even small choices help.
Having some control.
Exactly. Second, mastery. Focusing on growth and improvement, not just performance. This ties right back to that growth mindset we discussed earlier. Seeing yourself get better is hugely motivating.
Right.
And third, purpose. Connecting your learning tasks, even the boring ones sometimes, to a larger, meaningful goal that resonates with you personally. Why does this matter to you?
Okay. Autonomy, mastery, purpose. And for setting up flow.
For creating the conditions for flow, you need a few things. Clear goals for the session. What do you want to achieve right now? An optimal challenge task needs to stretch your current abilities, but not be so hard it's overwhelming or so easy it's boring.
That's sweet spot.
Exactly. You also need immediate feedback on your progress. Are you moving towards the goal? Minimal distractions are obviously crucial for that deep immersion. And finally, that sense of control over your actions and how you approach the task. When these elements align, you dramatically increase your chances of dropping into that incredible productive state of flow.
Wow. Okay. What an incredible deep dive into really mastering the art of learning. We've moved way beyond just passively reading and hoping, beyond that pseudo work and the sneaky fluency illusion.
Yeah, hopefully giving people some concrete things to try.
Absolutely. We've talked about embracing a growth mindset, and you now have this robust blueprint. Strategies for designing effective learning projects, enhancing your focus, processing information deeply, leveraging space practice, and rapid feedback.
And even tapping into that powerful engine of intrinsic motivation and flow.
Yeah, it's a complete picture.
And ultimately, this means learning isn't just about, accumulating facts for a test or a meeting. It's about fundamentally changing how you engage with information, how you adapt to new challenges, and really how you shape your entire life.
Becoming a true self-educator, like Scott Young puts it.
Exactly. For every aspect of your existence, school, career, health, personal growth, hobbies, everything.
So as we wrap up, what stands out to you listening to this from all these powerful ideas? Maybe think about just one strategy you'll experiment with this week.
Just one small change can make a difference.
Right. Will you try active recall by really quizzing yourself rigorously after reading something? Will you maybe attempt to explain a complex concept you're learning to a friend like they're 5 years old?
Or maybe design your next learning challenge, however small, with really clear constraints and seeking out those rapid, precise feedback loops.
Lots to think about.
And here's a final thought to consider. If learning truly underlies success and fulfillment in nearly every aspect of life, from your health and relationships right through to your sense of purpose, what hidden skills or profound knowledge could you unlock in yourself, or maybe even help others unlock if you started applying these principles to areas you've always considered unlearnable for you, or maybe just too difficult to even start?